Now this is the club that the data tells us every ability of golfer loses the most shots with during a round. So we've teamed up with YouTube coach and Shotscape ambassador Matt Fryer to help you turn this club into a secret weapon. Right, so Matt, we're here on the 4th hole at Formby Ladies. Beautiful hole, but we've been crunching the numbers, right, with Shotscape.
Yeah.
And it's clear that every ability of golfer loses the most strokes during a round with a 5-iron versus any other club in the bag.
Yeah, tough club to hit.
Why do you think that is?
You know, the 5-iron itself, not much loft on there. They're getting stronger as well. You know, we look back in the old days, it was around 25, 26 degrees.
Yeah.
Down at like 22 now.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to launch it. So I think that plays a big part. And then head size as well. When we think of alternatives that are out there, compare that to the iron, and they are, you know, pretty small. That even myself, I'm considering changing that in a minute just to try and find a bit of forgiveness out there.
And why is a lack of loft a problem for a lot of golfers out there?
I think, well, it's two things. Launching it, we want to try and, I think when we think of good iron shots, we see that high tower in one, and then also curvature. We struggle actually controlling the curvature, and again, because the head is small as well, if we then add in a miss strike as well, we're not going to launch it as high, and the curvature is then going to be exaggerated even more, so it makes it probably the hardest club in our bag to hit.
Yeah, and so not only is it hard to hit because of all those reasons you just talked about, we also see that golfers have unrealistic expectations about how far they hit it, but also how many times they should be hitting the green with this particular club.
Let's say the average golfer, a 15 handicapper, is hitting it 169 yards.
Yeah.
They'll be thinking that the 7-iron's going 150. So then when they're pulling the 5-iron out at 180, let's say, you're going to be short there. Yeah. That's not even factoring if you misstruck it, or depending on lie as well. I see a lot of golfers taking it, you know, from semi-rough, slightly heavier rough, and because of that lack of loft, they're not able then to launch it up as well, which is then going to culminate in a short shot going into the green again.
Right, that's enough of the doom and gloom. We've talked about how hard a 5-iron is to hit, but let's help golfers out there hit their 5-iron a little bit better, shall we?
Yeah. But for me, there's two areas where I see real problems with the 5-iron. A lot of the students that I coach, they come in, we get the 5-iron out, and we adopt the technique that we see from a 7-iron, in that as we go to address the golf ball, the ball gets back in the stance here, and as we discussed, there's not much loft on it, and we want to try and launch this thing. And that's then where the second problem comes in that as we're coming into impact, I see a lot of golfers moving back behind the golf ball in an effort to try and get the ball up in the air. So when we do get our 5-iron in hand and we're going to address it, we're going to remedy that ball position first. If we start with our feet together here, where the ball's going to be just in the middle of them, what I would say to every golfer, if we're going to get a 5-iron out, we want it a little bit further forwards in our stance. It's going to shallow the angle of attack out ever so slightly, and it's going to help us launch it. So what we want to try and do is maybe step out about 2 inches with the lead foot towards our target. So we'd see there, it's about a club head's width in front there.
Yeah.
And then as we go back, we're going to make a bigger step there. So it's going to be about 2 to 3 club heads back there. As we can see now where my body is, we've got the middle of the body here, and the ball is now target side of that. Most golfers have it back here, and then intuitively the brain then will say, right, we need to now get this up because it's further back. And that's where the second problem comes in. As we're coming into impact, I see a lot of people getting the sternum even further back behind the golf ball, and that's going to result in those shots where we're getting the ground before, and if not, you get that lovely topped one, and then again you're going to have to hit a 5-iron when you're absolutely cursing yourself. So just real simple, making sure that we get just the basics. And any pro that you see out on the golf course, they just do the basics well. Yeah, they've all got different swings, but if we can just make sure by taking this little setup, then feeling that sternum's just behind it, but then as we start to come down, the one thing I want you to try and feel is that you just make a slight move where we feel we pressure the lead foot, but as we're coming into impact, I want to see now that sternum will be slightly in front of it, just covering it, because if we do that, we're then going to get ball and turf strike, and that's going to give us the appropriate lift conditions that we want to try and get this 5-iron struck with.
That's some really good advice there. I mean, is there any drills or swing feelings that people can take to the range to practice to really enforce these good movements?
Yeah, I think for me, I do a real simple drill with my students, and you know, we talk about the 5-iron being hard to hit, but I want to talk about the makeup of the club as well.
Yeah.
Mine, they're really shallow sole. If we think of like your 7-iron, your pitching wedge, you take more of a divot with those clubs. With these, you get a little bit of relief, and we want to try and use the bottom of the club a little bit more. So what I want you to try and feel, if you just did a little drill where you put 2 T-pegs, one at ball length and then one about a club head width out in front of the golf club there. What I want us to try and do, if we just move the ball to start off with, I just call it sort of landing the plane as we do it, or brushing the plane along the ground. I want to try and feel that I can get my students to try and feel that they, as they're coming into impact, to stop the leaning back and getting the ground early. I want to feel that as we're coming through, we just feel that we're just brushing the ground here, just that couple of inches from where the ball would be, and afterwards I'm not taking a big slab of turf out. I'm just going to graze it with a slightly downwards attack angle, but as you can see there, just a little bit of turf's popping up as we go through. If we can just do this in small swings, you'll start to feel that the pressure shifts forwards and you get that nice little grazing of the club, and then as you come into a full swing, you're able to just pick the ball off a little bit cleaner instead of dumping it out early.
I really like that. Well, shall we see one? You've sort of talked the talk here, haven't
Talk
you?
the talk.
Let's see that nice shallow angle of attack. I mean, it'd be a good 5-iron to get there today into this wind, but hopefully the viewers can see what it's supposed to look like.
Just that little brush, come in, make sure that ball position's right, feel that sternum in the right place.
That's a pretty good hit, Matt.
It's pretty good, but a little curl on it there, Joel, but as you can see, not much divot, and that's the big thing for me, trying not to make sure that we're doing everything to get it up in the air. Try that little brushing technique and you'll be astounded how well your strikes start to come with it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good drill and a really good shot. I mean, that stayed pretty straight, but I think you will agree, and I would agree, you see a lot of golfers with long irons in the hand, 5-iron, that lack of loft really just accentuates the curve that you get on a ball. So what should golfers' approach be when it comes to their aim and their strategy? Should they be allowing for a little bit more? How can they really help hit more greens with the way they think about this shot?
I think over-egging how far we hit it. So, you know, on a hole like here at Formby Ladies on the 4th, a lot of the trouble that we see on every golf course as well is generally at the front. So if you've struggled to launch it, but you've got an okay strike, and it's sort of coming in a little bit flatter as well, you've got a lower descent angle, you might end up bouncing into trouble. So like one strategy is looking at, you know, this hole here, I can see 1, 2, 3 bunkers that are all short of the green. So is the 5-iron going to cover that? Maybe not. Am I going to launch it enough to carry it up over? Maybe not. Then there's also the you know, the flag hunter, especially when we get the lasers out, we look, and as we play golf, our end target is that flag, isn't it? It's the hole. So we can get suckered into going, well, the flag's tight on the right or tight on the left, and depending on what your curvature is as well, it might not be wise to actually go at that flag, because you could stand there with a flag that's at the right of the green, you've got a little bit of a slice, the 5-iron's going to accentuate it, you aim dead at that flag and you miss it 20 yards right. So it might be more, if you are a slicer, saying cutting the green into thirds, you know, you've got your left third, your right third and your middle third, you want to play down the middle and the left third if you are a little bit of a slicer, allowing it to move back to centre and then pull up to the right hand flag. So there's a lot of things, you know, for me, assessing where the trouble is and flags and taking that into account, and especially with the 5-iron, you know, playing towards that back number a lot of the time as well. With the watches, the great thing is that you can see front, middle and back. I'd play, you know, to that back one every time if I've got anything more than a 7-iron out for the average golfer.
You don't see a lot of golfers missing long, do you, a lot of the time?
And
and often that's where the trouble isn't.
There's nothing generally at that back of the green there, it's just going to hit it and roll back to the green. So that would be part of my strategy straight away.
So there you go, guys, some really useful swing advice, strategy advice to help you hit your 5-iron a little bit better next time out. Right, so Matt, we've given the viewers some useful tips to help them hit their 5-iron a little bit better, but if they're still struggling, which a lot of golfers probably will be, what other options are there for them to put in their bag, maybe upgrade it to a different club that might give them a little bit more success?
Yeah, you know, and ShotScope shows that if you do switch into something else, i.e. like a hybrid, your green percentage is going to go up, I think 4 or 5% more than more
Right.
greens are hit with the alternatives.
Yeah.
There's lots out there now, you know. Back in the day we just saw bladed irons, didn't we? It was a 2-iron to a lob wedge, deal with it, get on with it, as where now combo settings become a big thing, so
Yeah.
you can get a sort of like driving utility iron, something along the lines of like this, so the
Yeah.
head looks a lot bigger compared to it. You can get things like the hybrid, something like this. Again, it's sort of the mix in between the iron and the wood, and then even from there you can go into things like the 7 woods, and even the 9 woods now are seeing lots of things like these. And you know, the real big benefits with clubs like these when you're moving into them is the mass of the head. So not only do you get a larger sole, which is going to help you with a little bit of turf interaction, it's going to be able to get a little bit more weight down at the bottom, which is going to help with that launch issue that I talked about earlier on.
Yeah.
And then also because of the mass of the head, from toe to heel, and then even from front to back, any miss strikes, which we all do as an average golfer, that's not going to cause as much twist in the face, so then that's going to limit that curvature as well, you know, when you hear the hybrid, the combo set. So I think it's a pride thing. A lot of time we would say, no, I've got to have it, but we're seeing, you know, Tommy Fleetwood, winner of the FedEx Cup, 9 wood in the bag when he did that. So it's something that I think if you really struggle with those long irons, looking at the alternatives can have a dramatic impact on your game.
I mean, we've already talked about at least 4 alternatives there to a long iron. How do golfers know which one's right for them? What should they be looking at?
Obviously for me, I always talk about in our videos, go and get fit. You know, you've got to look at your launch conditions, what swing speed you are, how you spin the golf ball, and what feels good to you as well. You might look down at something and say, oh, a fairway wood, a 7 wood just doesn't look right, as where something like a combo iron, you still feel like you're playing a little bit more of an iron. So it's a case of getting them all in hand and, you know, looking at the gapping as well of each of them, because what you don't want is to go from 6 iron to a combo iron and then your next club's your 3 wood and you've got, you know, a 40-50 yard gap. You've got to make sure that those all stack up and that you're hitting the right launch angles as well when you go through them.
So there you have it, guys. Hopefully we've given you all the advice you need to hit better shots with the club that the stats say is the hardest to hit. We've helped you swing, we've helped you set up position, we've given you some options in terms of changing the club to make it easier for you. If you're still struggling, then maybe all hope is lost, but hopefully the tips in this video are going to help you hit more greens with your 5-iron and lower your scores. Big thank you to Matt for helping us today. Thank you to Formby Ladies Golf Club here. We'll see you next time.